Take the next right turn. 1.5 mile, make a slight right turn.